talk anymore. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't love anymore. What was all of it for? Ooh, we don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't talk anymore. We don't talk anymore like we used to do. We don't love anymore. What was all of it for? Ooh.
Just a session of venting, because it's like literally I've been on this journey for a minute now, and it's had its ups, its downs, its trials, its situations. But to be honest with you, it was like, when it's just like one of those moments where it's like, how do you know, it's God, it's from God, or what does it sound like to hear, the voices speak, or whatever the cases may be. I would honestly say, like, it's not for the weak. It is a time balancing out spiritual world and the earthly realm, of understanding, understanding, knowing, what's in you, what's to come out, not being boastful, and all these things that you've been doing. But God comes in so abruptly and so loud as soon as you say, like, God, tell me what's going on, or whatever the case may be. Because you have to be accepting. You have to be accepting to be able to let God use you, to be able to actually heal. And the healing starts within. Okay, so I had to learn that. Okay, and then it was so much that I felt like I had to unlearn. Like, I had to unlearn, the societal norms, or I've never been much of a follower per se. It's just like standing in my own lane, and always going against the grain, or having questions about certain things of like, I don't think I want to do it that way. Like, I'm good. I'm going to just go ahead and do it this way. I'm going to trust that. Trust in my instinct before I even knew what that was, or trusting that discernment before I knew what it was. Now, granted, in some instances, it had to be a life lesson for me to actually teach from that testimony, or share certain things, because no journey is easy. No journey. And honestly, there isn't anything that I feel like I can say is like, knowing to trust and follow, and to be submissive without even being through the fire, or being through the turmoil, or going through these things, because I wouldn't have had a reason to say, like, I really got through it, by the grace of God. So understanding all these things, and I feel like right now at this moment in time, like, okay, I've gone through, I've done, I've fasted, I've prayed, I've shed this and shed that. But that was only because God said, okay, I promise you, if you let these things go that I had been attached to in the physical, I'll give you more than you could ever ask for in the spiritual. And when God filled me up spiritually and healed my heart from agony, despair, betrayal, everything that you could ever imagine, and helped me gain emotional intelligence, gave me spiritual wisdom, gave me an abundance of love, support, everything that I could ever ask for. It started overflowing in my life. And that was only from walking away. Now, it was hard. I ain't even gonna hold you. When I say hard, like, I'm kicking, screaming, and crying, you know, in my quiet space to God, like, why? The woes, the, you know, questions that I felt like I needed answers to. And the only person that can answer those questions were God. But the people that I lost, the people and things that I had to be separated from, it wasn't connected to God. Yeah, like literally no connection whatsoever. It was drama filled, or, you know, like wasn't the right way of living. It didn't fulfill my heart. I was drained. I was just disgusted with self. And it was just that click for me to say, like, you know, God, I have tried it my way. That didn't work. Let's do it your way. Go ahead and take the wheel, okay? And as God took the wheel in my life, everything shifted for the betterment. Everything shifted. My perspective, my perception, my love, the way that I carried myself, the way that I talked to myself. And I remember going through this journey, it starts with self, because I had to have the realization that something was wrong. Okay, so, and then I had to take accountability for all the things that were wrong, right? Because that was me wanting control of the outcomes of people, places, things, objects, ideas, or whatever the case may be. And if I felt like, okay, well, if I have, you know, control in this aspect, then I can control the outcome of how this could be perceived, or how this can be, you know, talked about, and caring about what other people thought from the outside, you know. And then it was just like, wait a minute, that's just not doing it for me. Okay, so gaining that clarity, and now where I am, God sat me still. God sat me still in the middle of what I consider to be the biggest storm, you know, within my life. I lost my mom in a house fire, and up to the date, okay, up to the date of her death, it was like we were in the greatest spiritual warfare that I felt like I had given it my all, my everything. And in that moment, when she passed away, I felt so defeated. Like, so defeated. Like, God, I'm doing everything. I done changed this and did that, and, you know, I'm giving up this, and you told me to get rid of this, and this is that and the third. But in those moments where I had to realize that I idolized, you know, my mom. I idolized her. And that too is a sin. And then on top of that, with her own sufferings that she was going through, she had her own spiritual battle that she was fighting for so long. And then I felt like once we had this bond and this connection, or had this conversation, like, you know, a few days prior to her death, it was just like, I apologize to her for taking so long on my journey to catch up. You know, it's like the baton, she was already, you know, running this marathon, and it was like I'd been behind her, and I was supposed to, you know, catch this baton, or she passes it along to me, and to keep going. So I had to change my perception of that emotion of sadness, that emotion of guilt, that emotion of, hurt and pain, and change it for the betterment of, like, my mother lives on through me, and she hasn't died, spirit lives on, and things that surrounded me were proof of that, like I still have Bible study, or I still have, these notions of writing letters, and in different instances, I kid you not, like in the process of moving, or in the process of, God said get rid of everything. So everything that I had gotten attached to, I had to let go of, right? So worldly possessions and things of that nature, I kept some keepsake. And going through this little box of like old pictures of my kids, old pictures of myself, different t-shirts I kept from military, just a box of memories. And in that box and in that moment, just as I've been writing my mom letters, I found like a hand full of letters that came from my mom, and I just sat down and read them, and they were so inspiring. It was just like, it just showed up when it needed to, on time, and acceptance filled my heart, and knowing that it was so rewarding, and I had become so honored to continue out her legacy with telling people how good God is. And that was it. That's all. And just full of self-love. Like, I still admire, my mom, but she just was the most amazing woman that I know. And the fact that she lives on through me, I have become the most amazing woman that I know. And it had to happen in a way that God just literally had to turn everything around for the betterment of, who I have become. And it trickled down to my 3 girls. So, and alongside the fact that just as being a being used by the Spirit, it shows unto others. My energy is felt before, God presents this appearance of who I am, but I am elated to be that individual that God has called me to be. And so I came to say, like, it's okay to not be okay in those moments where we aren't okay, and in those moments that we are broken or we feel broken. That's only the starting of, like, okay, I perceive this as in those broken moments, everything had to be detached from me, right? And I get to pick up the pieces that I would like to have in my life. I would like to continue with me on my journey, as in, like, okay, well, I know better now, so how am I going to do better? And as God separates you from the old and you become new, the grief has to set in for all things, people, places, ideas, all things. You grieve them because they are now dead to you. Like that person that I was before my mom passed away, during the transition of her life, and those things that were forgotten, those things that were suppressed, those things that just completely erased from my mind. It was all normal. It was all a part of the plan. It was all a part of growth. It was all a part of the journey. It was all a part of being, right? And so now I understand how life works, how God works, how the Spirit works, how Mother Earth works. And in those instances, yeah, I don't know everything. I don't. We remain teachable because you learn something new every day. But in those moments, what I have learned, I know better, so I do better. Unapologetically, okay? Because I can't apologize for this life that God gave me, this light that He decided to let shine so beautifully through me. The universe is on my side in those moments where, in my moments of truth, I can only stand in that. I can't care about how I am perceived. I can't care about what other people think. I can't care about how people feel. I can't care about any of that, because what's in me, it's unshakable. And once you get to that point in your journey, it's the most beautiful place where I can best describe as heaven on earth. Because I refuse to live in hell. I refuse to live in agony. I refuse to live in fear. I refuse to live in pain. I refuse to live in bitterness. I refuse to let the world change who I am. And I refuse to let the outside mess up anything that's going on inside. Because it took a lot to cleanse. It took a lot to heal. It took a lot to be better than I was 10 years ago, to be better than I was 5 years ago. And that's the only competition that I do have, is the yesterday of me, okay? And literally in these moments of just speaking aloud or writing it out or things of that nature and sharing, it helps. Because just as my story can touch one of 1,000, that one sheep is just as important as the flock that had already made it out of the pasture. That one sheep that you know got away or veered off or whatever the case may be, it could be something that hits them to the core, to the soul, to just bring them back home to self. We're all on a journey and we're all walking home. We're all just trying to get there. We're all just trying to make it. We're all just trying to get to the promised land. And what was promised to us was heaven on earth. I thank you for listening. I thank you for tuning in. I love you, and I hope you love you too. Let's get it. God bless.